Taxes are the main source of state revenue that is the backbone of development. Financing. Through taxes, the government finances education, health, infrastructure, defense, and people's welfare programs. However, over the years, the taxation system in Indonesia has faced various challenges, such as low levels of taxpayer compliance, revenue leakage, slow administration, and rules that do not follow the times. This condition makes state revenues not optimal. Even though the budget needs to build the country are getting bigger, this is where tax reform becomes a very important thing to do. Tax reform in Indonesia is a process of comprehensive improvement of the tax system, regulation, and administration to be more effective, transparent, fair, and adaptive to economic developments. This major change has been started since 1983, when the government changed the tax collection system from official assessment to self-assessment, where taxpayers are given the responsibility to calculate, pay, and report their own taxes. This step is accompanied by the introduction of the taxpayer identification number (NPWP) as the official identity of each taxpayer. The course of reform continued in the early 2000s with the improvement of the Income Tax Act, value-added tax, and general provisions of taxation. The government began to adopt technology in administration, introduce electronic reporting systems, and improve the quality of service of the tax office, facilitate the public while suppressing practices that have the potential to cause revenue leakage. Entering the digital era, tax reform has increasingly focused on modernizing services. The Directorate General of Taxes launched e-filing for online tax return reporting, e-invoicing for electronic tax invoices, and e-bupit for digital tax deduction evidence. This step not only accelerates the administrative process, but also increases transparency and reduces direct interaction between officers and taxpayers, thus minimizing the potential for abuse of authority. One of the key moments in tax reform is the tax amnesty program in 2016. 2017, this program provides an opportunity for taxpayers who have not reported their property to disclose it and pay a ransom at a lower rate. As a result, the tax base increased significantly and property ownership data became more complete for future tax collection purposes. In 2021, the Harmonization of Taxation Regulations Act (HPP) law was born, which became a new milestone of tax reform. Through this act, the government adjusted the rate of income tax, gradually raised the rate of value-added tax, introduced a carbon tax as an effort to support climate change control, and implemented a tax for digital companies operating in Indonesia. This carbon tax policy shows that tax reform is not only pursuing state revenues, but also directed to encourage sustainable economic behavior. Tax reform brought many positive impacts. State revenues increased year by year. Services became faster and more transparent, and more economic sectors entered into the tax base, including the digital economy. However, challenges still exist, such as tax avoidance by some parties, low public tax literacy, and the need for data integration between agencies to optimize supervision. Going forward, the government is targeting more sophisticated tax reforms by utilizing big data and artificial intelligence to monitor taxpayer compliance. In addition, tax education will continue to be extended to schools and universities so that young people understand the importance of paying taxes early. Regulations will continue to be adjusted to technological developments and global business patterns so that Indonesia's tax system remains relevant and competitive. One of the new directions of concern is the use of tax instruments to encourage through carbon tax policies and tax incentives for companies investing in environmentally friendly technologies. The government wants to ensure that economic growth is in line with environmental sustainability. That way, tax reform not only strengthens the country's finances, but also helps Indonesia achieve emission reduction targets, increase industry competitiveness, and create a cleaner and healthier future for future generations.